What's up? Welcome to today's live stream. Today is Friday. It's the 29th. I think we have a couple of more days in the month. I'm surprised that it's going by so quickly. I feel like it was just a few days ago that I paid rent. And I get to pay it again very soon. Yo, what's up? Cruz. I actually just got back from North Houston and dinner. So I'm probably gonna be here for I don't know, maybe an hour or two, or longer, depends. Probably gonna go hang out on the pool on the roof for a little bit, deload a little bit. But yeah, I've been here 3 days out of the week, Cruz. So yeah, you've been missing out. This is the fourth day. So yeah, I've come back. I've returned, and I'm only going to be here for a short period of time because my lease ends in what 7 weeks, 7 or 8 weeks, and due to the shooting that happened here a few weeks ago at it was on World Star. I'll just say that where I live was on World Star and national news a few weeks ago. So I can't live here any longer. I worked my ass off to get away from hood and ghetto ass individuals, and those ratchet ass individuals are moving from places like Atlanta, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, like all these other places, and even New York. They're moving here, and they are some of the most degenerates I've ever encountered. Their culture is whack, especially the people who aren't from the South. Like the Atlantans, even though at least we share a culture, so it's like it's not that big of a deal. But the folks coming from other states or regions, yeah, they're turning especially in Houston, our city is starting to look more and more like Austin, looked like when I was in college and in high school, and it's starting to look more and more like what I saw in San Francisco when I would go there several times a year. No, there are homeless people outside my building now. If I won't say where I live, I won't give you like the specific location, but if you know Houston, and you know the area, River Oaks or Upper Kirby or Greenway Plaza, like that whole like West University, all that kind of stuff. It's one of the most affluent areas in the city and in Texas. And in the past 6 years, the quality of life has gone down significantly. I don't know who got shot. I don't care who got shot, to be honest. It was some rapper. And I'm going to be honest, I don't care about rappers. If they want to shoot themselves and kill themselves, I'm fine with that. I'm kind of an accelerationist in that regard, where it's just like, I hate them so much. Yes, go kill yourselves. Yes, go shoot. Just go shoot yourselves to death. And, you will solve the problem for the rest of society so that we don't have to deal with that antisocial, degenerate behavior. Because it doesn't make anything nice, right? Like, I was actually having a conversation with my neighbor on the way back. We were coming back from dinner, and we passed by a lounge called Ciel, Ciel, on San Felipe here in Houston. And he was surprised that it was still open. He was like, it's one of the most racist places. And I was just like, how is it racist? And he was mentioning how anyone who's black or urban is this actually what they'll say. They say anyone who's urban, they get sat in the back. And he was telling me how he had went one time, and he went to the bathroom, and as he was walking to the back to go to the bathroom, how it was clearly a divide where it's just like all the black people were in one area and then everybody else. Uh, I was just like, I don't know. He mentioned that a lot of clubs, in order to be racist or to discriminate without saying black, they'll say you can't wear Jordans or something like that. I'm like, I don't see how that's racist. Just being honest, like I don't understand how saying you can't wear Jordans is racist. I actually said, I'm like, that's probably a good idea because all the folks who I know who are super into Jordans, they'll probably want to shoot you for stepping on them on accident. Anyway, that's a aside that has nothing to do with anything. I'll probably we're gonna watch some videos. Let me go ahead and pull up YouTube. If there's anything that y'all want to talk about, you know, if y'all have questions right now, maybe it's a good time to say it, bring it up. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Let's go on to share my screen. In a second, watch later. Yep.
I was chatting with it.
Okay. So I put a lot of stuff on my watch later over the past like hour or so. Basically, before I left, I was sitting on the couch thinking if I was going to do a live stream tonight. And I was like, just in case, let me go ahead and just add some more stuff to my watch later playlist. Now, I have a lot of stuff in my watch later because I've managed to only get through 3 or 4 videos since I started doing this. So, so there's that. We're going to try to get through at least a video. So I'm probably going to find a shorter video to watch, maybe. Okay, so yeah, there's the looks maxing. It's not about looks. I remember skipping that on like last time. And I think we finished the undercover SpaceX IPO, the wealth transfer. So we'll go ahead and remove that. And yeah, I'll pick one of these in a second. Let me check the chat. Let's see here. Casual Economist, 3 streams in a week. Oh, it's only been 3? I thought it was 4. But okay, all right, sure, 3. Cruz, I'm kind of pissed because I want to stick around, but I got to run. Man, bro, it's fine. You don't need to stick around. It's fine. I appreciate you for showing up, just saying hello. Plus, I see you. I don't see you in like visually, but you know what I mean. Don't we talk every day? It's fine. It's fine. Is Cruz on Twitch? Yeah, it looks like he's on Twitch. Yeah, he left. He said he's gonna wake up and go run in the morning. And I think I want to say is he East Coast or is he West Coast? I forget what coast he's on. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into one of these videos. Before I get into them, I'm curious. There are some topics we can get into AI. I have a video that's related to AI, or I can get into a video on like relationship dynamic, you know, like feminism, man stuff, whatever crap. I have a video about the dark side of Ozempic, but it's long. It's really long. There's something on data centers, which I guess that's part of AI, like kind of like news, politics type of thing. So just give me an idea of where I should go. Should I just start at the bottom? I'll just start at the bottom. Give me a second to find my place. Okay. I've heard of looks maxing. I've been hearing a lot of max, like just a word and then put maxing at the end. To me, it's indicative of low IQ people. No, it's just a herd mentality. The looks maxing movement, I think it's a psychological issue. Basically it's like bulimia, or the folks who like, gosh, what's the other one? It's bulimia and it's another one where you're like too skinny or something. You throw up. You force yourself to throw up or whatever. I think that this looks maxing that men are calling it, which is a stupid name. I think that it's the male equivalent of that females experienced when I was younger in the 2000s and the 90s. All right, anyway, I don't care enough about looks maxing to get into it, so I'm going to skip that one. We're going to do this. We're going to go into finance. Now, understand that most of you who follow me probably don't care about finance or about how investing in startups or how funding and all that kind of stuff works. But it's something that that's kind of the world that I'm in. So I saw the video. I was like, oh, this kind of looks interesting. And if it turns out to be valuable, I had the person in mind who I wanted to share it with. So I have to watch it to confirm that this is going to be valuable for him, because I don't like watching. I don't like sending videos as a recommendation to people if I haven't watched it. It's a pet peeve of mine, especially when people do that to me. It kind of pisses me off.
Built Uber.
No, we can't say low IQ maxing. I think what we have to say is IQ minimizing, IQ optimization. We're trying to find the lowest IQ. We're optimizing for the lowest IQ. It's not maxing, it's minning. IQ minning. Seeing as we're here on YouTube, like I've coined that. So if we start hearing minning all the time, just remember that it was me, him, who coined the term minning, IQ minning. Go propagate that out into the world.
By the time it went public, he reportedly owned less than 9% of it. 2 years earlier, he resigned as CEO after major investors demanded a leadership change. Stuart Butterfield built Slack and reportedly owned around 8% at IPO. If you're not careful, this is one version of what the venture path can look like by the time a company goes public. What funding looks like in the news isn't what it looks like inside the company. The headlines show check size and valuation. They leave out the dilution, the terms, the board, and the clock that starts ticking the day the money hits the bank. The rules are different too. Founders raising in 2026 are seeing higher seed valuations, more deals where the valuation gets set later, and a bootstrap alternative that's more credible than it was 3 years ago. I'll come back to Kalanick. His story shows you something most founders don't think about until it's too late. Once investors and a board are involved, control isn't just about who starts the company anymore.
That is 100% the case. I was with someone a day ago, 2 days ago. I don't remember. I met him for lunch. He's starting, maybe he's here, I don't know. He's starting a tech venture. And we were talking about just raising, funding and all that kind of stuff. And I mentioned that I bootstrapped my own startup years ago. And cause I had my own money. He was like asking, did I raise? And I told him that I actually turned down money. And he was wondering why. And that was the reason, which is control. But at the same time, I said, if I were to do this again, I would take the money instead of spending my own money. Given that, startups tend to fail. So instead of me burning through a shit ton of my money, more than some people make in a few years, instead of me doing that, I could have just took their money and then blew their money, and I'll still have my own capital. But it's fine, lessons. A good lesson. I say that's my MBA. Instead of going and doing my MBA at Harvard, I decided to leave school, and I did my MBA by starting my own company and growing that and like doing all of the things. It's interesting.
Understand why founders end up with less ownership and less control than they expected, you have to understand how funding works. Before any of the funding details matter, there's a choice almost every founder makes without realizing they're making it. There are two kinds of companies you can build. The first one is the venture scale company with massive funding rounds, high valuations, and eventual acquisitions or IPOs. The investors writing those checks are betting that your company gets bought or goes public, which is how they get their money back. Not just their money.
Yeah, and those are the types of companies where, I mean, not the company, that's the type of, well, it is the type of company. If you're trying to do that hyperscale, like unicorn type of thing, it's very different from other types of companies. These days, I'm more into what are called lifestyle companies, where, I'm not greedy. It's it's one thing to be a person and say, you know what, I want to go found a multi-billion-dollar company because I want to be a billionaire and all that kind of crap. And sure, that's fine. You know, if that's you, fine. No shame. But for me personally, I don't care enough. I'm not that greedy. So for me, I'm like, a lifestyle company is fine. I don't need a company that's going to continue to grow. I don't need hyper growth. I don't need any of that. I'm fine. For my standards are incredibly low for what's considered a successful company. For me, you know, if it's doing $100,000 revenue a month, to me that's good enough. You know, it's 1.2 million in revenue a year. Depending on what my margins are, assuming I can keep my margins to around 20%, you know, I'm making 200K, and you know that I get to keep to myself. And I also get a little bit of growth, but I'm not focused on that 20% or 10% month over month growth. I'm just like, you know, this is good enough. And instead of trying to scale the company up, I just go start another thing and say, all right, if I have 8 of these things and they're all doing, you know, 100K more per month, then that's kind of my strategy. Is I focus on, I don't need a lot. Let me find something that's relatively easy to accomplish. And then my scale is just, let's just replicate that. So a lot of people who know me, they've always been impressed by how many different things I'm in. And that's just, yeah, that's kind of been my MO.
But 10 or 50 or 300 times what they put in. The return only works if your company becomes huge. Everything about how venture works is built around chasing that outcome. The second kind is what people used to call lifestyle business, but a better name for it-
Well, yeah. So yeah, I didn't know that she was going to mention this, the lifestyle thing, but yeah, that's what I like. You know, it's easier. You know, it's relatively low pressure. That's what I'm building right now, by the way. The tea thing, that is a lifestyle business. And while it could grow and, you know, it could be worth 9-10 figures one day, that's not necessarily my goal. And fortunately, me and my founders, my co-founders, we all agreed that if we can get 10 million in revenue a year, we will call that successful. And that's something that's achievable.
Is a durable, profitable company. It makes money, pays the founders well, and can grow steadily for years. There's no need for outside investors.
Yep. See, yeah. Yeah. It makes real money. The thing that I learned with a lot of the startups that are in hyper growth, most of them aren't making money. The valuation is based purely on the fundraise. You know, they're not profitable, so they're not making money. And for me, I would rather just make money because I think that's the purpose of a business, you know, to make money, to actually do something in the community. And if you're not doing anything in the community, of course, you're not going to make money. So I prefer that. And yeah, so you get paid and you do get steady growth. And oftentimes it's boring. So you're not going to have as much competition because everyone else, I don't know, it seems they're kind of foolish in my opinion, but everyone else, they're off trying to become worth 100 million or a billion or multiple billions of dollars. Instead of just saying, you know what, I can go and work and make minimum wage, $7.25, or I can go the lifestyle business, and yes, it's only gonna pay me $300K, which is, you know, or it'll make $300K in a year, but it's yours. You know, like you're not gonna get fired. You don't have a ceiling. If you ever want to take more of a step back, I mean, if you have the mindset for it, you could hire other people and have them do it. You know, you'll get a smaller return, but you won't be working. So I like lifestyle businesses.
The company doesn't spend more than it makes. The founder owns most of it forever, and that's the whole point. Both are completely valid. The mistake founders make is wanting to build a profitable business they own while taking money from investors who...
Right. That part. So many people, they want to take money from investors. And I understand, I guess. I do understand, like, not everyone has their own money. I get that. And even if you do, some people aren't willing to risk their own money like I was. But my take on that is, if you're not willing to risk your own money, then that tells me that you don't have faith in yourself and your product and whatever you're doing. That's kind of how I judge. That's how I looked at it when I was making that determination of, do I want to take, I won't say the amount, but it was a lot. Do I want to take this money at this valuation? And, I'm giving up 20% of the company. It was like 18, but like 20% of the company. And I had to now I'm going to have goal. Like, I have milestones that I have to meet now because I have their money and they want a return. And typically when you are getting investors for a tech company, the returns that we're looking for are 10 to 100x. And by the way, when you raise money, it's going to be on a valuation. So let's say, for instance, when I was doing my thing, the company was valued at like 5 million, right? And they want to make my math easier. They want 10% of the company. So they'll give me $500,000. So that's them valuing my company at 5 million. That doesn't mean that I have $5 million worth of business, right? So that means that I have to grow. And given that they've already multiplied the value of my company by 10, I need to grow by more than 10 in order to give them their money back, along with all of the interest. So normally when you're taking money from investors, they're expecting 10 to 100x, which puts a lot of pressure on you. So which is why I didn't do it. And I'm saying this because I had a conversation with a guy, and I'm pretty sure he may come across this video. I'm gonna just send it to him and be like, hey, here, you remember we were talking? This is why. Here's some more backstory for you.
Company sells or goes public. You can't take a $5 million check from a fund.
Wow. She said, "Fuck my God." I haven't watched this, by the way. I'm surprised she said 5 million. 5 million is easy. It's an easy round number.
Outlier returns, and then decide later that you'd rather just run a profitable business at your own pace. By signing for that money, you're agreeing to grow the company.
Yep, you're forced to. That's the problem. And honestly, I think that's how we get in shitification. A lot of these businesses that have shitified their products, they're basically forced to continue growing at all costs. The thing with growing at all costs, though, is that it's unsustainable, especially when you don't have a growing population or a growing market.
Enough to either sell it or take it public on a timeline the investors set, not you. What changed in the last 2 years is that building a profitable company without outside money got a lot easier. AI made software cheaper and faster to build.
I don't know if I agree with that. She's saying that as if AI has actually done the thing that she's saying that is done. I have not seen evidence of that yet.
Products that used to require 10 engineers and $1 million in seed money now get built by one person with a handful of AI tools. Solo-founded companies went from about a quarter of new startups on Carta in 2019 to over a third today.
I get that. I think she's still looking too deeply into it. Just because more companies are founded with solo founders doesn't necessarily mean that they are actually producing anything of value. Most startups fail, which is why the investors, they tend to expect a 10 to 100x return. They're working on a power law. They understand that the majority of startups are going to fail. So you invest in 100, and given that the way these things work, that if one of those bets win, that's going to more than cover for all of the 99 losses. That's how this works.
Skipping funding entirely is more realistic in 2026 than it's ever been. If you're going to take outside money anyway, it's worth knowing what you're agreeing to. And the first thing nobody explains properly is how the rounds actually work. Funding doesn't happen all at once.
She said no one. I think she's being too, she said that too confidently. People do talk about these things. How do I know how this works if no one is talking about these things? How do I know how these things work? There are whole communities of startup incubators, accelerators, venture capitalists, founders, all of that kind. There's a whole communities. They talk about this all of the time. This isn't really news. Obviously, it's not news to me, but we're watching it so that we can help
Don't hand
educate
a
y'all.
founder
How
all
about
the
that?
money the company will ever need on day one. It comes in stages because no investor wants to fund years of a company they haven't seen any progress from yet. The first stage is pre-seed. This is when you have an idea and maybe a prototype, and you raise enough to build the product and get it in front of users. Pre-seed in 2026 has split into two very different worlds. Many of these rounds are still under $250,000. The larger ones, where founders raise at least $1 million, now average closer to $1.4 million, according to Carta. Most pre-seed deals these days aren't priced rounds with a fixed valuation.
I want to go back to here. This increase, I know most people look at this as an increase, but I'm really reading this as a decrease. Here's why. At one point, I'm assuming in 2024, $1 million was enough. But then 1 year later, we now need 40% more in order to do the same thing. That's kind of how I'm reading this. I don't think the deals got 40% better. I don't think that we got 40% fewer deals, so we have less supply, which means, you know, there's fewer places for the dollars to go, so that each place gets more dollars. I don't think that's the case. What I think this is showing or indicative of is inflation. Like there's consumer inflation, but there's also the producer inflation. You know, the like for inputs that producers need to produce the products that consumers. Most of you who you buy stuff, you don't really make it. Some of you do, but I think just based off the class dynamics in America, I'm willing to say like 90% of most people, like, I mean, 100% of us are all consumers. Obviously, we all consume, but I said, like, primarily, you know, some people consume and produce. Some people produce more than they consume. Some people, I guess, I don't know what they do, but in this case, because these are the companies, they're the ones who are going to be hiring labor, because that's really the biggest cost: labor and servers. I think this is really just inflation showing up there.
Million, according to Carta. Most pre-seed deals these days aren't priced rounds with a fixed valuation. They're safes or convertible notes, which let you take money now and figure out the valuation.
Wait, did she just say most? Because I don't know if that's the case if most deals are structured as safes. I know that Y Combinator switched to safes, but I don't know if all of the accelerators or incubators are on safes now. They may be. I have not. I'm a little bit out of the loop. I haven't been in the loop for what, 3 or 4. What year is this? 26. Yeah, it's been like 3 or 4 years since I've really been in the loop or in the know on this. But I still think, I don't know. I don't know if the majority are safes.
According to Carta, most pre-seed deals these days aren't priced rounds with a fixed valuation. They're safes or convertible notes, which let you take money now and figure out the valuation later.
Oh, by the way, I'll share a resource for you all in case you're interested to know what a safe is. Wait, will I may not. Oh, okay, never mind. I was going to say I might not be able to share that with y'all, but I think I can. Yeah. So this should be public, I think. Let me confirm that this is public. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
With the ceiling somewhere between.
Oh, and if that link doesn't work, if for whatever reason Twitch or YouTube decides that they don't want me to share links with you all, then you can go to my channel on YouTube or Linktree / something. I don't know. I have a Linktree. You can go to my Linktree, and you can go to my Discord, and maybe I'll start trying to make an effort of sharing these links in the Discord. Maybe.
$10 million and $15 million. AI deals can push higher, but the average pre-seed founder isn't raising at a fantasy valuation just because they put AI in the deck. Seed is the next round, and it usually happens once you have a working product, some early users, and signs that people want it. Seed valuations have climbed in the last year. Carter reported median seed post-money valuations hit a record $24 million in late 2025, up from about $18 million just the year before. Post-money just means the value of a company right after the new investment goes in. AI startups get a premium on top of that number. AI Series A specifically. Carta puts AI valuations roughly 38% higher than non.
Wait, AI valuation? Oh, okay. Never mind. Yeah. This is when this bubble pops, it's gonna be so bad. I think this is gonna be worse than the .com bust. It's definitely gonna be worse than the dark fiber bust. Man, it's interesting to be old enough to have lived through so many boom bust cycles to where it's just obvious. It's like it's the same shit. It's always the same thing happens. This is gonna be bad when this shit bursts. Oh my god. Have y'all seen the valuation of SK Hynix? It's 10x'd in 10 months. It's 16x'd in 2 years. They haven't released anything new. Like their product isn't any better. They don't have any more They don't have any more clients. It's gonna be bad. Here, let me see. SK Hynix valuation. See that shit? Look at that. This is insane. Let me convert this into like let me look at their market cap. See that right there? Let me convert this to USD for you. Korean won to USD. Wait, why did that work? How did that work? Okay, we'll do it here. So we'll do Korean won, KR, to USD. I copied the wrong thing. I'm dumb. I should have copied this right here. This trillion. Oh yeah. It's 1 trillion. I'm not dumb. I'm smart. I did it right. Yes, worth $1.1 trillion now. This is a Korean company. Now, why? Who knows? This bubble is about to be bad. Yeah. It's getting real out here, man. It's it went up 11% Wednesday. It's now over $1 trillion, and why? I don't know why, but this is where we are. I don't think that RAM prices could continue to be at the prices that they are. You know, right now, the companies that are buying it, they're paying for it with money that's not theirs. They're spending other people's money right now. That's what when you raise money for your company, you're spending other people's money. So most of the money that's being spent on RAM and GPU, well, I mean, RAM is kind of like RAM is used on GPUs too. Yeah, all this shit is tied together. So, like, what's that other company? What is it called? Nvidia. What are they worth? Wow, 5 trillion. Oh my god. Now I do regret, because I had the opportunity. I should have, man. I met, because when I was in a certain country, I met some of the leadership of Nvidia, and they were doing some build outs in the Middle East. And yeah, man, looking back, I'm like, I could have put like 50, not just 50,000. And shit, I don't know, what would that even be worth? Like 5 million or something ridiculous. Anyway, I missed that one.
Valuations. and the gap gets even wider at later rounds. The best AI seed deals can clear $40 million in valuation, but the average company isn't raising at those numbers, and trying to compare yourself to the most hyped rounds is a fast way to set yourself up for disappointment. Series A used to have a simple rule of thumb: hit $1 million in annual recurring revenue, which is the total of all your customer subscriptions over a 12-month period, and you could raise. But that number isn't enough anymore. Most investors now want to see closer to 2 or 3 million annual recurring revenue before they'll take you seriously, unless your growth rate is exceptional, your technical team is elite, or you have an AI angle that investors are competing to get into. Series B usually doesn't happen until the revenue is in the tens of millions. The further along you go, the less the round is about your story, and the more it's about the number on your dashboard. Each round has its own rules. A pre-seed pitch is mostly...
She doesn't say, but seed A, B, C, like those are just nominal, ordinal things. They don't really matter. So you have your pre-seed, you'll have your seed, and then you'll have your A through, at some point, maybe you'll IPO, but maybe you'll get acquired. Typically, the investors, they're not looking for an acquisition. Generally, they want you to go to an IPO. That's the liquidity event that they would prefer. That being said, an acquisition is the next best thing, or selling the company to someone, which is acquisition, right? With the acquisition, it kind of depends, because the company that's doing the acquisition, a lot of times they may not want to pay cash. I don't think they'll ever pay all cash, but it'll be a mix of cash and stock, or maybe it'll be all stock. So that may be one of the reasons why they don't want that. Or it could just be they're looking for their 10 to 100x, and a company that's being acquired, they're not going to acquire it for that, unless it's GitHub. GitHub was a unicorn. There are very few unicorns. That's why they're called unicorn startups, and everyone wants to be a part of one. I want to make this AI company and join in on this stupid scam. Well, the thing is that it's too late, right? Like the time to do it was probably 2021, which is that's before it was introduced to y'all. Because I was using for my company, we were using some of the stuff from OpenAI in 2020. I shouldn't say we. I was, because I started it initially on my own, and then over some time, the team grew. But yeah, I was using OpenAI tech before ChatGPT came out, and I was using it in some ways in like how it's being used now for code review, but not in the same sense. It was for interviewing, the interview products. Some of you may have been around for long enough to know about Post Supply when I came back to YouTube and I was doing the live streams. If you are curious, you can go and look at those things. They're still on my channel. They're live. I think the first one on this one is 2022. Although I do have hundreds more from earlier.
About who you are and what you're trying to build. A Series A pitch is about your revenue, your growth, and how you're spending money. If you walk into a Series A meeting and pitch like it's pre-seed, the investor will pass. If you reach out to seed investors when you're still at the idea stage, they'll tell you to come back later. Knowing which stage you're at and pitching the right investors for that stage is the kind of thing nobody teaches, but every founder is expected to figure out. Once the money is in the bank, the most important number in your company becomes runway. Runway is the number of months you can keep operating before.
This is how I live my life. I'm sure y'all have caught on to that when I'm like, I operate on how many years or how many months I can go without doing something. This is how I operate. It's on runway. So when I was working at One Signal, I'm saving a lot of my money until I get to a certain point where I'm like, all right, I have my 2 years. That's what I need to make me feel like just secure in myself. I need 2 years of saving somewhere that I can use for my living expenses. And let me show you how clutch that comes in. I haven't been employed since last January. I've still been living my life as normal. And the only reason why I'm leaving now is, well, it's not the only reason. I don't like spending my money. I'm not even gonna lie. But there was a shooting, so I had to leave. I had to leave. But I mean, I kind of planned. I was like, I have until next January, and then I might have to start pulling out some other resources, or looking for a job for real. But I'll go work somewhere easy like Costco or something stupid. I'll go work at a car wash or become a server because I can. I kind of want to go back to working with my hands. I've been thinking about it a lot. My first job, I was a janitor, and low key, I loved that job. I was responsible for cleaning a 10,000 square foot facility every day, inside and outside. And at first I hated it, but I don't know, it's weird. I started to love it. My favorite thing to do was to mop. I don't know why. That was my favorite activity.
You run out of cash. Founders who track this number closely are less likely to get blindsided. Founders who only check in once a quarter are usually the ones who find out about a problem too late to fix it. That's why a lot of founders set up their banking, cards, and expense tracking through Row before they ever take their first investor meeting.
I don't need the
So they
advertisement.
can see the number live every day. Link is in the description. When investors put money into your company, they don't buy your shares. You don't sell them anything. The company creates brand new shares and gives those new shares to the investors. So if you and a
Jimmy?
co-founder started the company with 100 shares split between the two of you, 50 each, those shares stay yours forever. The investor doesn't take any of your 50. Instead,
But then you're going to create some new shares, and they're going to create some new ones, and you're not going to get those new ones.
the company prints 20 new shares and hands them to the investor on
You've been
top
diluted.
of the 100 that already existed. That sounds like good news at first. Your shares are still there, but your percentage of the company is smaller. You used to own 50 out of 100 shares, which was half of the company. After the investor gets 20 new shares, the company now has 120 shares total. You still have your 50, but 50 out of 120 is 41%. You went from owning half the company to owning 41% of it without selling a single share. That's what dilution is. Your share count doesn't change, your percentage does. And it happens every time the company raises a new round. The Facebook story is the easiest way to
What's his
picture
name
it.
was here earlier. Cruz was here too. He said that he's doing a run. He's got to wake up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday. I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m., but sometimes I wake up at 6 a.m. I wake up at I don't know. I have a weird schedule. I don't have a bedtime. I don't have a wake up time. I don't have any structure. Maybe that's what I need in my life, is some form of structure, because I have none right now.
Bill was the first outside investor, and in 2004, he gave Mark Zuckerberg and Eduardo Saverin $500,000 for roughly 10% of the company. That valued Facebook at just under $5 million at the time. The original founders didn't sell any of their own shares. Facebook just created new shares for Peter, and everyone else's percentage shrunk a little to make room. By the time Facebook went public, every original founder owned a fraction of what they started with on paper. But the company was worth $100 billion, so that fraction...
I don't know if that's true. Mark Zuckerberg is a very shrewd businessman. He owns a significant share of Facebook. It's insane how much he knew what he was doing. You have to understand this game at a very sophisticated level to outmaneuver people for this long and maintain so much control over such a valuable company. Let me see. Is it public? I want to see if this is public. Mark Zuckerberg. Obviously, it is a fraction by definition. A fraction is just a numerator over denominator, right? So, like, obviously, every number is technically could be represented as a fraction. But normally, when people say a fraction, they're talking about something tiny. That's the connotation. That's why I want to check this. So, Mark Zuckerberg, how many shares? Shares in Meta. 13%. And he commands 60% of the total voting power. That means that he had to make sure he built his shit right. Legal structure, everything. Like, he had to make sure he ran his shit right to maintain 60%. He has full control over Facebook. No one could, like, there's no way people could do a hostile takeover, like, you know, where they get together and they overrule him. That can never happen. And he somehow still manages to own 13.5%. God. At the beginning of this video, she mentioned Slack. I think he managed to keep 8%, a much younger company. And I forget the other company, but I think they managed to keep like, I forgot the number, but it's in the stream. You can go back at some point.
Still worth tens of billions. That's the deal you're agreeing to when you raise. You give up a percentage in exchange for the chance to build something much bigger than you could fund on your own. How big that fraction ends up being comes down to one number that founders almost always misunderstand. Founders fixate on valuation more than almost anything else. It's the number that goes in the press release, the one founders compare with other founders in their YC batch, and
this
the
is
one
the
that
thing.
gets celebrated
When
when they're
before I
ranked.
understood all of this, and really I didn't understand it until I had to understand it. I'm not even gonna lie. But I used to see those raises and I'd be like, oh man, like these companies, they just raised $20 billion. And at that time, I was thinking or conflating the valuation with the amount that was invested. It wasn't until a little bit later when I learned that valuation is kind of like, you can kind of work backwards to figure out how much the company actually received. And if you are a little bit more sophisticated, you know how this works a little bit more deeply, you can get an idea of how much cash they have in their account. Just, you know, it's once you start knowing how it works. So if you're dealing with a company and, you know, they'll be like, oh, we just raised whatever. And because, you know, all these companies, they'll use that as a signal in order to either get something from you, or maybe they're trying to sell you something and they're trying to use that, right? If you don't know any better, you'll just hear that number. Oh my gosh, yeah, like, you know, they $1 billion, and in reality, they could have like $50 million in the bank, which is not a lot. I mean, it's not a small amount, but it's not a lot for a company, you know?
And at the earliest stages, it's also the number that matters the least. The truth about pre-seed and seed valuations is that they're not calculated. They're agreed on. There's no formula.
It's all
because
negotiation. That's what I'm saying. So you once you start understanding stuff and you start talking to folks, it's a small world. You can figure out how much money someone has in the bank. And that's kind of what she's going to get into it,
plug
hopefully.
into the formula. A pre-seed company might not have revenue, might not have a product, might barely have a working prototype. There's no business to put a number on yet. So the valuation becomes a negotiation about how much risk the investor is taking now versus how much money they can make later if the company works.
Typically at this stage, the investor is not necessarily investing in the company. I have my take is, and this is just how my philosophy is, you invest in a person, not really a company, especially early on. Now, later on, if you know your series B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, all if you're that far into it, yeah, you're more interested in the business. You don't really care. I mean, you may care, but it doesn't really matter about the people, the team. But when it's pre-seed, seed, it's really more about who the people are, like who is the team. All business is people, really. So that kind of stuff, it means a lot. And you're being evaluated based on you. So the offer that I was given for equity in my company had nothing to do with the fact that I was building something or it was a real product or a real problem. Wasn't any of that. It was 100% because of who I was, what I have accomplished, my network, like what I'm capable of, it's a lot of those things.
If 5 investors are competing for your round, you can push the valuation up.
Yeah. The founding person, typically it's not a founding person. It's generally going to be a founding team. You know, you'll have 2, maybe 3 people, and then you'll have your first employees, and they'll be part of your founding team. But when you're at a pre-seed seed stage, typically there isn't any of that. It's mostly just an idea. Maybe you'll have a prototype or a demo or whatever, but it's mostly an idea. And the investors are going to know the founders intimately because it's just them and they're working 24/7 basically. Tempo/culture. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got confused for a second.
If one investor is mildly interested, you can't. That's almost all of what determines an
Oh, another thing, your valuation can go up if you have a lot of investors interested because, money is fungible. Your dollar and my dollar, they're the same. It doesn't really matter. So they'll start competing with one another because there's limited cap. There's limited. You don't want to have your cap table too big. You don't want too many investors. So they'll start competing. And sometimes, I think this is dumb, but sometimes they will be like, oh, I'll do more and more. Maybe not more money, but more other stuff. Like they can help in other ways. Money is not that it's important, but you'll find in life that there are way more important things than money.
Stage valuation. But the headline valuation is only the start of the story. By the time a company reaches Series B, the founder often doesn't fully control the company anymore. Carta's most recent data puts median founding team ownership at around 23% by that stage. The board can fire the founder as CEO. The founder needs...
By the way, this happened at Apple. Steve Jobs was fired from his company.
Approval for everything from giving themselves a raise to making any major decision about the company they started. Most founders sign up for all of that without realizing what they've signed until they're already living with the consequences. And the valuation isn't even the part that does it. The valuation gets the press release, but the terms decide who controls the company, which is the part most founders miss. A founder might celebrate raising a $5 million at $25 million valuation because it sounds better than raising the same amount at $18 million. But if the higher valuation came with worse terms hitting in the contract, that founder may have made the worst deal. There are 4 terms that are super important for you to know. A liquidation preference decides who gets paid first if the company sells and how much they get before anyone else sees a dollar.
Fun fact. A lot of times, the investors get their money back first. And not just their money back, because obviously they're going to get their money back. They're going to get a premium. They're going to get some interest or something. It's not interest, but they're going to get a premium. They're going to get more than they put in. Assuming that, that it doesn't go bankrupt, obviously.
Is called one times non-participating, which means investors get their money back and that's it. The version founders should watch out for is called participating, which means investors get their money back and a piece of whatever is left over. So if you raised $10 million and sold the company for $30 million, a participating preference means the investors take their $10 million back first, then take a share of the remaining $20 million on top of it. The founder ends up with much less than they thought they were going to get. Protective provisions are the clauses that give investors veto power over big decisions. Selling the company, raising another round, changing the budget.
That's a big one right there. I remember I've been a part of some raising, and I was the CEO. It was stressful for him. I'll say that. But you need approval from your current investors to raise more money. Even if you're in a situation where you need money and they are unwilling to give it because they don't have to give it to you. So let's say, I can't get too into details, but let's say, your company, you are currently trying to raise, what's a good number? Let's say $1 million on a $10 million valuation. Well, the reason why you're trying to raise $1 million is not just because you want to have a $10 million valuation. You need that $1 million in order to grow because you need to make some new hires. Maybe there's some new shit. Like, we need that $1 million. Now, if we could just ask our investor, hey, we need more money. Could we, if they're saying yes, then we don't need to do any of that. But no, we don't want to get more money. We've already did the round. We've done the raise. This is what we at. Okay, well, we still need the $1 million. Can we go and can we go raise it from other investors? No. Uh, you get to deal with shit like that. Oh man, that was, yeah.
New shares.
It still gives me
on
kind of
debt.
nightmares.
The founder is technically the CEO, but the company can't do any of those things without investor approval. Pro rata lights let an early investor put more money into your future rounds so they can keep their ownership percentage.
Yep. That pro rata is like, hey, that's the thing that the founders don't get. The investors have that opportunity to make, like, to keep their shares pro rata. Pro rata is just like you put, like, let me explain. Pro rata is as it is, essentially. So you start a company, I have 50%, you have 50%. All right, we have the same. Now let's say we do some other stuff, right? Like we need to purchase some new equipment, but we need more money. Well, pro rata, if we were to raise money, like put in money, our own money, pro rata, I would be responsible for putting 50% of the money required to go and invest in the capital that we need, to acquire the capital that we need, and you would be responsible for putting the other 50%. That's pro rata. So because I own 50% of the company and you own 50% of the company, you are entitled to 50% of the profits, and you are also on the hook for 50% of the losses, pro rata. In this case, pro rata is the investor saying, hey, I invested in your company for 10%. Okay, yeah, you want to go raise more money? Fine, yeah, you can go raise more money, but I need to maintain my 10%. That's pro rata, and everything's negotiation. Now you can be like, hey, like if you want to do that, you're gonna have to put some more money, but it may be on more favorable terms for that investor. It's all negotiated. There are no rules here. It's all negotiated.
From getting too diluted. Drag along rights mean if the majority of shareholders want to sell the company, the smaller shareholders are forced to sell
that sucks.
too, even if the founder doesn't want to. All of these terms affect either economics, ownership, or control. And when a company hits a crisis, those details matter.
Control is super important. Don't think of it as control freak. Think of it as that is what running a company is. You need to be in control. If you're not in control of your business, well, it's not your business. And it's probably not going to operate or run effectively and actually, do what it's supposed to do. You need to actually run the business, which means you need control. You need authority.
Once you've handed control over, the consequences can be much bigger than founders realize. Uber is the most public example. Kalanick resigned as CEO in 2017 after major investors demanded a leadership change, during months of controversy and internal investigation into Uber's culture and management. The lesson is that once you raise venture money, governance matters. Board seats, investor pressure, voting rights, and approval rights become very real when the company hits a crisis. Kalanick had built the company.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Everything becomes more complicated. It becomes a lot more. Which is why I decided after my last, the thing that I was doing, it was going to be something I wanted to scale, but I was happy with it just being like a lifestyle. 10 million a year is all I need. I'm good. But it's hard. All this is hard. And imagine you are a successful startup founder like Uber, and the people who raise money, who you help make rich, obviously they help make you rich too, but like they became much, much, much wealthier due to what you created, and they just say, you know what, no, you can't be here. The governance, all that kind of shit, it's just too much. It's just too much to deal with for me personally.
The investors he had taken money from years earlier ended up with a meaningful say in who got to run it. None of that sounds as exciting as the valuation number, but those clauses can matter way more than the valuation when things go wrong. When the company is growing fast, the terms feel like fine print and nobody reads. But the terms aren't written for when things are going well. They're written for the bad moments. The down round, when the company has to raise at a lower valuation than the last time. The bridge round, when you need emergency funding to make payroll. The acquisition offer that comes in lower than expected. The missed milestones. The board conflict. The month payroll is due.
Remember earlier when I said taking investor dollars comes with milestones? That's why I'm like, I don't want to have to do that. No. Why should I focus on someone else's goals when I have my own? Plus, I was just out of the rat race. Why would I go back
When the
to
next
having a
check
master?
isn't. That's why experienced founders don't just ask, what valuation did I get? They ask, what did I give up to get it? So let's say you've taken.
I've never wondered that. I'm typically curious about what are the terms. But I guess that's technically the same thing. What did you give up? But I'm curious of what are the terms.
Round. Money is in the bank and the team is celebrating. Then the clock starts ticking that most founders don't even hear. Investors wrote you a check because they expect you to grow fast enough to raise the next round. On a timeline, they're already counting down. From week 1, your company is running on a deadline it didn't have the day before. Hiring goals and growth targets get set against the size of the round you raised. The next milestone has to get hit in time to raise the next.
I shouldn't even say this, but there are only 5 of you here. So I'm going to give 5 of you some game. And one of those 5 is me on my iPad. So I'm going to give 4 of you some game. If you're ever curious, when's the best time to apply for a company, like a startup? If you follow their news, like their press releases, start applying around the time, like, let's say you saw their last fundraising round. Well, generally they're going to start raising 18 months to 20 months, 21 months. I shouldn't say they'll start raising. They'll have completed raising 18 to 24 months after the last round. So if you do a little bit of math, you can figure out where they are in that cycle. And generally, whenever a company closes on a raise, they're going to go out and hire more people, a lot of more people. That's why they're raising, really. In fact, they have to do it because what they sell to the investor, don't ask me how I know, but what they sell to the investor is, hey, we are a rocket ship. We're growing. Growing means they need more people, and getting more people shows that the company's more valuable. It's a reinforcing thing. So the investors, they want the company to continue to grow. So they're going to give the board, or maybe they'll be on the board. They're going to give the leadership of the company the mandate to grow. They're going to go out and have to hire people, right? Generally, when they have to hire people, that's the best time to apply, when they need to hire people. So that is your free game. If you're interested in getting into tech, or if you're in tech and you don't know this already, or you're trying to get into the startup game, that apply around the time of a raise, either before a new raise or just after, like literally like a day or two after they just closed the raise, because they've already planned out all of the stuff that they need to hire for and all that kind of crap, and they'll have the funds, and they'll be feeling elated. So all that, that psychology, that helps you.
A few years ago, founders were told to raise about 18 months of runway, and that usually was enough. In this market, 18 months is tight. Fundraising takes longer than it used to. Carta's data shows the average company that raised a Series A in late 2024 had waited around 2.1 years since their previous round. So more founders are now raising 24 to 30 months of runway, just so they're not pitching investors with their bank.
Oh, they're doing 30 months. That's a lot. That's risky. 30 months of runway? Eesh. Maybe that's why they're asking for 1.4 million, that 40% more. That would explain a lot. They are going to it's not double, but it's almost double Yeah, that makes sense then.
Close to empty. Whatever the number is, if you're not hitting the kind of revenue and growth Series A investors expect by month 12 to 14, you're going to start having uncomfortable conversations with the people who funded you. This is where the real cost of fundraising shows up. Dilution is one part of it. The bigger part is that you sold a piece of your company in exchange for putting yourself on a deadline. You can't decide to slow down. You can't be patient. You agreed to grow the company by a certain amount in a
Notice her choice of words. Words matter. You are now responsible for growing the company. It's not making the product better or doing any of those things. Once you get on investors, and I was talking to one of my neighbors about this, that most of the products that we use that become acidified, they come from publicly traded companies. It's very clear to me, I've noticed this pattern, that after a company IPOs, their product starts to not be that great. It's as if they just start caring more about cutting costs. You know, the bean counter start to win when you become a publicly traded company. I think becoming, or like, you know, getting listed on an exchange, like a publicly traded exchange, I think that's where companies go to die. They can no longer innovate. So I think that's really what happens. And if you don't believe me, just think about all of the innovations we've had over the 30, 40 years. They didn't come from publicly, like these big corporations. They came from small startups that didn't exist, and now they do. Agree to grow the company, like headcount, revenue, both. Agree to grow the company, like no, revenue. That's generally it, but revenue is probably going to be a function of what all you can do, like how productive you are, and maybe you have to have more people to be more productive. You need more workers. So it could be the case that hiring more people is the thing that's going to drive that revenue. And when I say could, I mean that's probably how these things work in business. You're going to hire a person because you need them to do more. Like there's more work to do than you have the capacity to fulfill. So you go and hire another person, which allows you to do that additional work, which makes you more money. You see where I'm getting? It's feedback cycle.
Time. And if you don't, the next round is going to come with worse terms than this one did. One of the most common ways venture-backed startups die is running out of money between rounds. The money you raised was supposed to get you to the next milestone, but maybe a hire didn't work out, or growth slowed for a quarter, or the product took longer to build than you thought. Now you're 6 months away from running out.
Or another one, you didn't anticipate the sales cycle for the types of companies that you're trying to sell to. Not all companies or not all industries, depending on how big they are, companies have different sales cycles or life cycles. At a big ass multinational corporation, where this is probably going to get deployed across 20, 30, 40,000 folks, and they have their own infrastructure and there are a lot of things, that sales cycle may be a year. It might be a little bit longer. There's probably going to be a lot of negotiation too. And you better know how much it costs you to fulfill that service, because they're not going to want to pay the full price. You're going to have to give some discounts. And you're going to want to know what can you actually discount so that you can still make a profit.
Cash and still not at the numbers that would let you raise again. Investors don't want to fund a company that's already in trouble. So you scramble, take a bridge round, which is a smaller emergency raise to keep the company alive. If the company is under pressure, that bridge round can come at a lower valuation, more dilution, or worse terms than you're used to. Or you don't make it. This is the moment Row was built for. Companies that get stuck between rounds almost never get surprised all at once. They get surprised slowly. Spending creeps up a few $1,000s at a time. Expenses end up scattered across 5 different software tools, and nobody has one place where they can see the full picture. 6 months later, the runway number is worse than anyone thought it was. Row keeps banking, cards, expenses, and runway in one place. so founders can see their card position.
I'm over here saying that I don't like, but you know what? Depending on who, like, I might have to look into them because I have to manage a lot of different things right now. Yeah, there are 8. You know, there are 8 people on this thing that I'm doing right now involved. No, it went from just me and then 2 others, and now it's 8.
And runway more clearly. Link is in the description. The most important thing that happened to fundraisers since 2022 is the market split in 2. On one side, regular startups now have to prove more before they can raise. Investors want to see actual paying customers, growth that hasn't slowed down, customers who keep using the product after they sign up, and a clear reason to believe the company will hit their next milestone. The old approach of raising money on a good idea, hiring a team, and figuring out the rest later doesn't work the way it used to. On the other side, the best AI companies are raising at valuations that don't look anything like normal startup numbers. Carta found that in 2025, AI startups raised larger rounds and got higher valuations than non-AI startups at every.
This is why every startup is an AI now. It's an AI startup. They have their .ai. Even though they're technically not an AI company, they just say AI. And that will automatically double their valuation. It's insane.
From Series A onward. At Series A, the median AI valuation was roughly 38% higher than the median non-AI valuation. PitchBook reported AI valuations hit their highest level in a decade in 2025. So the market didn't get easier, it got more uneven. If you're an AI company with a strong
I got
team,
easier for
real
AI.
technical advantage, and revenue growing fast,
I don't even think you need a strong team
investors
for
may
AI.
compete to fund you. If you're a regular software company with steady but unspectacular growth, you may be facing a much harder fundraising environment than founders did in 2021 or 2022. The second shift is how the deals are getting done. As mentioned earlier, most pre-seed companies are now raising on safes and convertible notes instead of priced rounds. Carta's data shows around 92% of pre-seed rounds use safes specifically, with convertible notes still showing up in some.
See, so because I had an issue with them saying most. Their data is coming from Carta, which is why. So they really should say most startups that use Carta. Not all startups use Carta. I think the startups that mainly use Carta are the ones that were at Silicon Valley. Like all YC companies, they'll use Carta. I think Andreessen Horowitz, like their A16Z. I think they use it. Sequoia, maybe. I'm not sure actually. I think 500C. 500 is it 500 company? Whatever. I forget the name. I think their companies use Carta. I actually don't know of any other international ones that are using Carta, but maybe they do, and I just don't know.
Deals. The risk for founders is that the valuation conversion feels avoided, but it isn't.
I need to check my Carta. I haven't. She over here talking about I haven't checked my Carta.
Shares at the next round, the valuation cap and discount that got negotiated up front decide how much of the company the founder ends up giving away. The third shift is what's possible if you don't raise at all. One-person companies hitting $1 million in annual revenue are still rare, but they exist now in a way they didn't 3 years ago. AI has cut the cost of building software low enough that a single founder or a team of 2 or 3 can sometimes reach revenue numbers that used to require an entire department. Not every founder can do this, but not raising money is a real option in 2026 in a way it wasn't in 2022. The founders who understand all of this raise from the right kind of investor at the right size, with terms that don't put them in a corner 2 years later. The founders still using the 2022 playbook are giving up far more of their company than they need to, in exchange for money they could have raised less of or skipped entirely. New shares get created, valuations get negotiated, dilution adds up across rounds, and a clock starts the day the money hits the bank. What changed is the founder's options. Building a company without raising money is a real path now. Smaller rounds at better terms are getting done. These are funds that specifically back lean AI native teams that didn't exist 3 years ago. The founders who go in knowing how the deal works are the ones who walk out with the company they wanted to build. The only question is whether you'll figure that out before you sign or after. If you want to see what's possible without raising a giant round, the video on how Claude is creating a generation of millionaire founders is the one to watch now.
Okay, I have just checked my Carta. Oh man. Oh my gosh. I'm happy. Whoa. All I can say is wow. I was not expecting this. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I need to do some financial planning soon. Okay, yeah. Oh shit. I'm gonna have to pay. Oh my gosh. Mm, okay, nah. Okay, all right. So we're gonna move on. We are going to move on. Let's remove this from the playlist. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. I've already shared the link, I think, in here. Yeah. If y'all want to go and subscribe to Row, they seem like a startup actually. Let me go check them out. As y'all may, I mean, shit. I guess I don't need a job, but like, I would like, I would actually like to be a part of this. This. Now that I'm thinking about it, let me see who's on their team. I've never worked in this industry, and it could be something where I can learn something, which could be cool. Oh, okay. Wait. This is what kind? This is okay. I guess that's their management team. Or is Row a what is Row? Oh, they're a VC firm. Okay, never mind. I thought they had a product like some type of card. What she did? She mentioned a card, and when I was complaining, I'm like, I don't know if I care. And then I was like, yeah, actually, maybe I do care because I am dealing with these issues. So maybe it's not Row that I'm interested in.
The runway, the description, the action two.
Oh, it's in the description. Okay. All right. Let's see here. It is Row. The hell? Oh, okay. Here, yeah. This. I would like to be a part of this. I'm gonna do some research, but I think I'm gonna apply for this. See if they have something that I'm capable of doing. All right. Senior engine Belgrade. Hell no. No, fuck that. I would never go to New York. I don't know if I'll be. No, I'm not willing to go to New York for 270. Nah. In New York, nah. I'm good. I can make 270 here. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Or maybe. Damn, you speechless? Oh yeah. Like I'm up. I'll just say that. And I saw how much taxes I'm gonna have to pay for next year, and I'm broke. I don't know if you know that. Like I'm not really broke, but I don't have income. So just seeing that I'm gonna have a tax event next year is not fun for me. And it's not gonna be a small tax event. I might need to get a job. It might be that kind of tax event where I might need to get a job and just save for 7 months so that I can pay my taxes. Otherwise, I would have to sell my shares to cover my taxes, and I don't want to do that. That's what I had to do when I was younger. I had to sell some of my shares to cover the additional taxes that I owed. So they didn't take out enough taxes. Apparently, $386,000 is not enough taxes. A few months later, I had to send a check to the government for $86,000. Now I had cash, but I didn't have 86 grand in my account, so I had to sell some shares to cover taxes. And I swore to myself I would never do that again. Back then, I didn't have a choice because I had quit and I was traveling. I'm like, whatever. But now I'm not traveling, and there's nothing stopping me. I could just go get a job. So maybe I should. Oh, fuck that, man. I fucking hate the government. I'm not even gonna lie. I hate the government. I hate paying taxes. I legit thought about not even coming back to this country because I paid so much tax to this country and I've got nothing for it. Is it considered a long-term investment? The options that I exercise, yes, those are long-term. I don't have to do anything until I sell. But I have options that I have not exercised. I have like 200,000 options that I have not exercised. And they are worth significantly more than the strike price that I have. I think my strike price is like 4 or 5 cents. So I have to pay 4 or 5 cents per share. And they're worth significantly more than 4 or 5 cents per share. All right. So when I exercise those options, I'm going to get those shares. They're going to convert into just regular shares or regular stock. And because that's an increase in value, like it's basically money that's going to me. It's not, but it's an increase in value, and I have to pay that. I have to pay tax on that because it's seen as a gain. Like I'm realizing a capital gain, except it's not something I've held long term. It's something that it's exercised right then in that year. So it's you're going to pay income tax. It's income. Now you can get around it, which which I did obviously by purchasing some of my options years ago. And I just paid the taxes then, which it wasn't much because the spread on the option and strike price, it wasn't much. It was like a cent. So yeah, I'll pay the fucking $60 in taxes. I don't care. But now it's not $60.
One side, regular.
Okay, let's see here. Oh wait, did I skip? Did I just skip? I did. Okay, yeah. I don't want to skip. So we could do this manosphere, or Google just did something huge. I don't know. Google. Do I care about Google right now? Or we can go over the insane complexity of the semiconductor industry. For what it's worth, this war is causing issues. I'm not sure how much I'll know about what comes out of the Middle East or what gets produced from oil and gas products. But most other things that we all take for granted are produced using oil and gas. For instance, most of the medications that you've ever taken, those are oil and gas products. Fun fact. If you've ever driven on a road, the concrete, the asphalt, the blacktop, whatever it is, oil gas products. If you've ever brushed your teeth with toothpaste using a toothbrush, both of those oil and gas products. And the packaging, oil and gas products. In order to create the packaging, to chop down the tree, oil and gas used. To get the tree from where oil and gas is in everything, right? But it's in a lot of things that we don't know. When I say we, but I guess we as a society, most of us don't know this for whatever reason. Fertilizer. The artificial fertilizer, not natural fertilizer, but artificial, the man-made kind, synthetic fertilizer, oil and gas product. Anyway, a lot of that is produced like urea. What else is produced? Helium, aluminum. There's a host of other things. Some other stuff will probably come to my mind randomly, but these are things that are coming out of the Middle East. All of those inputs, or all of those things, are inputs into things that matter to us. And I guess we are looking at semiconductor. Yeah, it is semiconductors. Semiconductors use helium, lots of it. There's been a helium shortage for a while, by the way, before the war. I'm sure this is only going to exacerbate that.
Of Taichung, just across the road from
Oh shit, Taichung. I've been to Taichung. What y'all know about Taichung? Hold on, wait, let me pull up these photos. I've been to Taichung. Look at that. Look at that. Your boy has been to Taichung. Y'all know about Taichung. Actually, I was okay. Never mind. I was about to say I might not be able to scroll through some of these because I don't know what's here. But here's Taichung. Let me get something aesthetic, maybe. Look at that. It might be a little blown out because HDR. So apologies. Yeah, it's blown out for y'all. I just noticed it. It's blown out. Never mind.
rice farms sits one of the most important buildings in the world, Micron's 30,000 square meter DRAM mega campus. Within this facility are billions of dollars worth of cutting-edge lithography machines working 24/7 to produce.
This machine is one of the coolest things to me. I am fascinated with the technology behind this. It's literally like the confluence of all of the things that I like: computing, electronics, physics, and photography, and lasers. Obviously, I love lasers. All of those things. This machine is that. It uses a lot of concepts that I understand because of the stuff that I do. Well, I mean, even I can relate other things that I do to this too, with synthesis, for instance, with signals processing, with my cameras. Like a lot of the same issues that I deal with my lenses on my sensor, they deal with here because that's what they're using to etch into the wafer. I've actually been to a foundry. I've never been to Micron. I've been to Philips and TSMC.
In turn, go into military equipment, network infrastructure, and most lucratively, enterprise GPUs to power data centers. Micron also used to manufacture memory for home computers, but they don't do that anymore. There is not much that hasn't already been said about AI data centers, the chips that power them, the companies that manufacture those chips, and the machines they rely on to do it. But all of this is really only scratching the surface of what is very likely to be the most complicated supply chain in the world. The chips that come out of this particular fab are not even a fully finished product yet. But even here, they're the result of over 6,000 individual suppliers from over 40 countries, making the machines that make the machines that make the machines that power the world's most
6,000 suppliers is insane. Over 40 countries? Bro, I'm struggling with two. Just two suppliers and two production partners. I'm struggling with that.
Technologies. This is a supply chain that's simultaneously far more robust than you've probably been told, but also full of far more bottlenecks. Which I know sounds like an oxymoron, but I promise it will make sense. Yes, TSMC is largely irreplaceable when it comes to advanced chip production, and only ASML can build the $400 million lithography machines they use to do it. But even with this highly simplified web of suppliers, there are dozens of other companies where only they can do what they do. And probably the best way to see that—
That sounds like a supply chain risk. There are several suppliers that they are the only ones who can do what they do. That should scare you. That should really scare you because humans die. They have accidents. Things happen. Earthquakes happen. Tsunamis happen. Volcano explosions happen. Tornadoes. All kinds of things can happen. And if you have 6,000, the probability of having supply chain disruptions increases because they all stack up on top of each other.
Is to follow the supply chains all the way from their raw elemental components and explore how the industry's current production boom is making your
that should scare you. That right there, that hockey stick,
and explore how the industry's current production boom—
that should scare you unless you own stock in the company that's doing it. Like, unless you own shares in the company that's doing that, that's just, well, even if you do own shares, that's just scare you. Kind of. It depends. I don't know. It depends. You know, if it's because of growth and all that kind of stuff, yeah, but this is bubbly, bro. This is, man. Their entire history, their stock has been pretty consistent, pretty stable around, I don't know, there's no Y. Oh, there is Y axis. Okay, what is this? 25. Okay, so it's been around 12. Like that's how, yeah, around 12 for its entire history. And then something happens and then it shoots up. And it looks like it's about to shoot up again. Is that sustainable? Over the course of your history, and this is a lot of history here, 93 to 2020, that's over 30 years, I think, or maybe 30. Can I do math? It's around 30. It may not, it's somewhere around 30 years. It's a lot of history. History says that it's more likely that this stock is worth this than this.
Is making your toilet more expensive?
All of those chips start in a place like this.
The only machines in the world capable of printing nanoscopic blueprints.
Hey, this is national security. I need to make it in America.
We don't want China to win the AI race.
There's a revolutionary machine that the whole world has come to rely on.
Blackwell is in production. Incredible amounts of technology.
In a small factory on the southern Japanese island of Kyushu, one of the most important tools in this entire process gets pressed into shape. A ceramics manufacturer takes ultra-pure aluminium oxide alongside a proprietary blend of other classified materials and...
Did y'all know that aluminum generally comes in powder form? Did y'all know that? Then it gets like put into the shapes that it's powder form.
Them into one of the most uniform ceramic plates that anyone on Earth currently knows how to make. The exact process is kept very deliberately secret for obvious reasons, but we know the basics from a US design patent that the company filed back in 2008, and from public engineering papers that have come out since. The defining feature of this material is that it barely expands when it's heated, and it's also diamagnetic, which are some of the very technical specifications that allow it to serve one specific purpose. You've probably seen videos before of computer chips being manufactured where a polished silicon wafer is being thrown back and forth in a sealed chamber hundreds of times a minute as different processes get applied to it. Well, it turns out that actually holding that sheet of silicon in place during all of this is its own engineering nightmare. You can't clamp it because at atomic scales, mechanical clamps would warp the wafer. You can't glue it down because the chemicals required to dissolve that adhesive afterwards would destroy the chips. And whatever does hold it in place also has to survive massive swings in temperature, pressure, and force without imparting a single bit of stress onto the delicate silicon wafer itself.
That's actually kind of, that's really cool to know. Just the insane, how every small component serves a purpose and the constraints that some of these components operate under and what they have to do to that. To me, this is awesome. This is what I want to see more of in the world, but I don't know if we're going to. I'm becoming more cynical. I'm sorry.
It's a brutal engineering problem, and these ceramic plates are pretty much the only thing on the planet that can really solve it. They use electrostatic forces to keep the wafer in place, and their atomically uniform surface means that the force of being thrown back and forth during production is spread evenly across the entire piece of silicon. Within each ceramic chuck, there are also perfectly machined channels for flowing liquid helium through, so the silicon stays cool even when it's pushed into a plasma etching chamber, where it will be exposed to extreme temperatures in the other direction. Again,
I did not know that it flowed through. I did not know that. That part I didn't know.
Are highly classified, and even if they weren't, there would be far more qualified people on the internet to explain it. But the point is that even at the first step of this tech tree, the tools are hyper specialized to a point where only a single company...
I saw Zeiss on there. Zeiss makes lenses, the optics. See, I know about things. You know? well, no, I don't have a Zeiss lens anymore. It arrived and it was damaged, and I sent it back, and I never bought a new one.
Has been able to stay at the cutting edge. These chucks might only be the size of a
Yeah, the electrostatic holding is cool. I think doesn't who is Apple? Doesn't Apple use that to secure the batteries in place these days in their iPhones? You know that adhesive. Well, I guess it's technically different. I guess they're just using straight up electrostatic Yeah, that's nothing, but it's not even similar, but adjacent. How about that? It's adjacent to what in the iPhone, where you had to run a current through the adhesive and then it'll release.
plate, but they can cost 6 figures each before you've even included any of the multi-million-dollar machinery that they plug into. The current world leader in producing this component and the patent holder for this exact style of chuck is the Japanese company Toto, which is a business that didn't start out as a high-tech semiconductor supplier. Their expertise in ultra-pure ceramics
aren't they toilets?
comes from their core business, which up until very recently was producing the world's finest toilets.
I'm like, I shouldn't say this, but I have one. I'm like, ain't this the toilet company? They're the ones that they're the famous well, not all of them are, but they are the company behind the famous Japanese toilet, the best Japanese toilet. Maybe I can show y'all one in action in Korea, of all places. How do I do that? Finder maybe. I'm thinking this is harder to do because I've realized that I can't share videos and photos because they're all HDR, and it's gonna show up weird for y'all because the stream is in HDR. So hopefully I recorded it on a real camera. If I didn't, then I'm not gonna be able to show it or share this. When did I go to Korea? Was it 23? Was it 2020? 22? Korea. Okay, let's see here. I'm gonna find. Here we go. Look at that. Look at that. It's washed out because reasons, but like, look at that. It'll present. It like sprays a scent. It gets it ready. The seat's warm. It flushes itself. It cleans your ass. It dries your ass. It can clean your front if you want to. It can dry your front if you want to. It's awesome. They even have a massage, and they have like a pulse mode on the on the bidet where it'll change the shape of the water and do that and like do it more forcefully. They can warm up the water for you. It could be cold water. It's pretty dope. It's a great way to take a shit.
And still is, although their priorities have visibly shifted in the last few years as data center customers have started outbidding the hospitality industry for the company's best ceramicists. Toto is also not the only unexpected company holding a bottleneck on this incredibly important global industry. It's not even the only one based in Japan. Ajinomoto is a Japanese company most famous for introducing the world to monosodium glutamate.
It's MSG. You know what's interesting though is that not that long ago, the United States removed a radar system from Korea and from Japan and moved them into the Middle East. Now, these radar systems are incredibly important. Basically, we no longer have visibility, really. I mean, we have some, but we don't have the level of visibility we once had in that region anymore. So let's say if things were to start popping off in the Asia Pacific region due to some of the tensions that have been going on out there, that's really going to cause an impact to these chips. And I know chips are not the most important thing, but I want this new MacBook Ultra. I'm sorry. I am. I want the new MacBook Ultra. It's not even out yet, but I know I want it, and I want TSMC to be able to make the chip so that Apple can make the product, so I can give Apple my money, so I can have my MacBook Ultra to replace my MacBook Pro M1 Max. What do y'all know about MSG though? Y'all know about that?
Or MSG. They've also used their organic chemistry expertise to produce ABF, a thin insulating film that sits underneath almost every advanced computer chip on Earth. ABF is short for Ajinomoto buildup film, and it has a very specific combination of properties that nobody's been able to credibly match. It's a stable dielectric, it can be patterned at very fine pitches, and it's extremely receptive to copper plating. The substrate underneath your CPU or GPU is essentially layers of ABF with copper traces patterned into them. And as chip designs have gotten more complex, the number of layers has crept up from 4 to 5 to well over a dozen on a modern AI accelerator. Those substrates themselves are then assembled by a different small group of companies, mostly Ibiden and Unimicron, which take the ABF film, sandwich it with copper, drill thousands of microscopic vias through it, and turn it into the green PCB-looking square that the actual silicon die gets soldered onto. So the next time your unemployed ass is enjoying some cup ramen, just remember that the same company...
Did he just say you're unemployed ass? I am unemployed, but I would never eat that ramen. That shit's so unhealthy.
You that concentrated sodium goodness is also keeping the modern world from literally short-circuiting. So far, that is two companies with an effective monopoly on their own particular branch of this incredibly tall supply chain. And the reason they exist is simple, practical economics that make strange things like this almost an inevitability. This video is sponsored by So I asked GenSpark. GenSpark's rate hike's final press conference last month, and like many of you watching, I wanted to know what a surprise rate hike would actually mean for my portfolio before markets opened. So I asked GenSpark. GenSpark isn't just an alternative to chat-based LLMs.
Let's turn it down a little bit. Given that, we're reacting to whatever this is, maybe we'll just have it go. And I'll give them a like, share it.
AI Workspace 3.0 and 3 features have completely changed how I work. GenClaw works like an AI teammate that you can message to handle research, write updates, manage emails, and schedule things, delivering the finished result back to you. Their super agent turns any macro event into a full visual report instead of a wall of text. So with that fed...
Quick question for y'all. Actually, I'll keep this playing. Quick question for y'all. Does the live stream play ads for you all? Do y'all get ads? I don't know how live streams on YouTube work. And I also have YouTube Premium, so I don't see ads ever. But I'm asking because I'm hopeful that you all don't see ads and it's not interrupting your experience.
That's why you've got to check out GenSpark. Every new user gets free credits just by signing up, so I'll leave a link in the description below. Okay, so inside the chip fabrication facilities themselves, the lithography machines tend to get all the attention, and there's one company in particular that's become the center of global attention here. ASML. ASML is a Dutch company that was originally spun out of a 1984 joint
Should be
venture with
Philips.
Philips.
Oh, yeah.
They make
It's
machines
American
that
company.
basically
So remember I said I've been to Philips. I think, well, I was too young. No, I don't have any of those photos anymore. No, did they let me take? No, I don't think they let me take photos in the fab. But I actually got to see these things being made and like all the whole process. I was part of a what do you call it? Some type of, I don't know. Let's just call it the Nerd Honor Society. I was smart, right? So I was part of some type of Nerd Honor Society. It's not called that. I forget what it's called. But I was sent out to Silicon Valley for a week and met up with like Linux Foundation, the Mozilla Foundation, the founders and all that kind of stuff, people who run it. Went to Stanford, Berkeley. I think what else did we go? We did a bunch of things. I don't know. I was like 15, I think. But one of the things that we did was we went to Philips for the day, where we got to see everything, talk to the engineers, and ask all kinds of questions, learn about stuff. And yeah, I guess I didn't get into tech by accident. Like it's almost as if I was pushed into it in a sense.
Print chip designs onto silicon wafers.
Oh, you got premium? All right, so yeah, you're not a good person to ask then. I have premium too. I haven't seen ever since Google offered a premium version back when it was YouTube Music, and you got the YouTube Premium. It was YouTube Music really, but you also got no ads in YouTube. It kind of just carried it. I just kept it.
Individual suppliers feeding into a single machine. There are Trumpf lasers from Germany, Zeiss optics polished to a smoothness measured in single atoms, industrial power supplies that have to be more stable than the ones running a hospital, and vacuum pumps that operate by knocking individual atoms out of the system one at a time. Each and every one of these examples is, again,
that's insane.
Producing components with
a vacuum pump that can kick individual atoms out. How? That's fascinating to me.
Viable alternative. The most advanced machines are physically so large that ASML has to ship them in pieces using 3 Boeing 747s, plus a small army of engineers who travel along with them and spend weeks reassembling the thing on the factory floor before it can be plugged in. As much as possible, all these suppliers are European or North American because of the geopolitical concerns around this technology. But some pieces of this sub-supply chain, like the rare earth magnets in optical assemblies, really can't avoid China entirely. Now, you might have heard that ASML is the only company on Earth that can produce these photolithography machines, which is not strictly true. Both Nikon and Canon, yes, the camera makers, also produce lithography machines for semiconductors.
I thought Sony did too. Actually, I legitimately thought Sony produced their own machines too. Pretty much all of the. That's why I remember I was like the photography shit. That's what. I thought Sony had their Sony lithography. Maybe they don't. Okay, yeah. Well, I did not know that. I thought Sony produced their own sensors. Or maybe, let's see. Okay, all right. Okay. So I guess they're like Apple where they design the chip. Like they're design their sensor. And then TSMC manufactures. And I'm assuming this based off of TSMC Sony Form Image Sensor joint venture. So this is me assuming from a headline, and I know you shouldn't do that. But that's what I'm going to do. But I will share this for anyone here who wants to go in. Oh, never mind. It's not that long. All right, let's just trust it, okay? TSMC produces Sony's sensors. And this entire time, I thought Sony produced their own sensors. But it's really, they just designed the sensors. So yeah, I guess that's a win for Canon then and Nikon. I'll give them that.
The reason ASML is distinct is because it is so far the only company on the planet that can build the TwinScan NXE3800E in particular, which is currently the only machine capable of cutting-edge single-digit nanometer resolutions. To get there, the inside of one of these machines has to fire a high-powered carbon dioxide laser at a falling droplet of molten tin 50,000 times a second, vaporizing each droplet into a plasma at around 220,000 degrees centigrade, and the resulting flash of extreme ultraviolet light is then bounced off a stack of Zeiss SMT mirrors to project a chip pattern onto the wafer below. Each one of these mirrors is the smoothest manufactured surface in the world. According to their own...
You know how crazy it would be to be able to have two of the smoothest pieces of glass and then stick them on top of each other so that you can experience true like absolute suction. Like, I don't know if you would be able to pull them apart. I would love to get two insanely flat pieces of something like that and just stack them on top of each other and then just hold them. It looks like it's physically impossible, but because it's so flat, all the air is gone. So now the atmosphere is the thing that's actually holding it up for you.
Manufacturer, if you scaled them up to the size of Germany, the largest bump on the surface would still be smaller than a millimeter tall.
God dang.
The Canon and Nikon models are at best a generation behind on resolution, but that actually doesn't matter all that much. Yes, high-end chips on the bleeding edge are a massive market, and one that...
So I don't think this is a fair comparison for Nikon and Canon. He's framing it as it's behind on the resolution. The thing is that camera sensors, generally, we're not like, well, I shouldn't say we, but the market for folks who are interested in camera sensing technology are not necessarily interested in trying to make their trend, make something as tiny as possible, which is why you need like a smaller resolution with as short of a wavelength as possible for, you know, the new higher end chips. For an image sensor, generally like 50 megapixels is considered a high resolution sensor. Most sensors are fine at 24 megapixels. Maybe they're lower than that. So you don't really need a high resolution ability. And you don't need a small wavelength in order to do that, because you have a fixed size. We're not trying to make image sensor smaller, because the size of the sensor plays a part in what the photograph looks like. And they've been standardized to match the lenses. So it doesn't really make sense to like get new machines that are more capable, because you wouldn't be able to make use of it. So this is actually an advantage for them. It's like, hey, we don't need it. So the price of these will drive to zero. That's not to say that it's close to zero, but it'll just get lower over time. Let's see here. If you attach metal in space like that, they become one piece of metal because the electrons can't tell they were ever separate. So they weld? Is that welding? Is that true? Or you say in space? Why do you say in space? Does it only happen in space? I wonder if the same thing will happen with the glass. It's just like, it's so flat that when you put them together, the atoms are so close to, well, the electrons are so close to one another that they form bonds. And now you've just turned two pieces of something into one piece of something with no, oh, you're talking cold weld. Oh, so it is welding. Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Much. Yes, high-end chips on the bleeding edge are a massive market, and one that gets the most financial and geopolitical attention. But most of the chips being produced today are not going into AI data centers or fighter jets. To toasters, Wi-Fi routers, hospital monitors, washing machines, and your latest vaccine. These mass-market chips are perfectly happy to use those slightly older Canon and Nikon machines, alongside the more basic models that ASML still builds themselves at the bottom of their own product range. ASML is also one of the only companies in the world that the American government has put export controls on, despite not actually being American. So for
it was formed as a joint thing, and all of the, I think most of the patents that are used are American, and I think most of the supplies that go into the machine are also American, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've really looked into this, so apologies if I am wrong. But maybe you can still find this information out these days. Maybe it's still on the internet. The internet sucks these days, so I'm not being facetious when I say maybe it's still on the internet. It may not be accessible to people.
customer that doesn't strictly need the bleeding edge, it's often a lot easier to just buy a more basic machine from another lithography manufacturer and skip the diplomatic paperwork entirely. Even you, if you were so inclined, could purchase one of these more basic lithography machines, and they are
50 G's. It's 100 G's. Huh. I mean, if you had something, I guess, that you could make that needs to be made, and I don't know, like that 50 grand is not a lot.
surprisingly affordable. This one from this very
Oh, is this a website? Made in China. Oh, look at that. Holy shit. This is a gold mine. I may be going to Shanghai in a few weeks, maybe. We'll see. To find suppliers for something else. And look at this. We're already in talk to some, but like, yeah, this is cool. I did not know about this. I'm going to bookmark this for later. I'll just put this in my favorites for now.
and they are surprisingly affordable. This one, from this very respectable looking website, is barely more than a fully loaded modern pickup truck. Now, lithography is important.
You know what's crazy to me though, is that this machine, which is actually an asset because it will generate cash flows, revenues. This is cheaper than a truck, a work truck, which, you know, those technically could be considered liabilities, although they could be an asset because you're using it to make your business run. But imagine now that because of inflation or whatever's going on here in America, buying a whole ass lithography machine is cheaper than buying a Ford F-150. That just seems backwards to me, you know, because I don't know. It just seems backwards to me. That seems strange.
Than a fully loaded modern pickup truck. Now, lithography is important and it does grab a lot of attention, but it's far from the only world-class tool inside one of these facilities with no other global alternatives. Despite the fact that you've probably never heard of it, Applied Materials is currently the 40th most valuable company on the planet, because they make a huge chunk of the other machines needed to actually build a microprocessor. We are talking about deposition tools that lay down layers of metal and insulation.
What's interesting to me is that I am invested in Applied Materials. Interesting.
One atom at a time. Ion implanters that put the semi in semiconductors, chemical mechanical polishers that flatten everything back down between layers, and metrology tools that constantly check whether any of the previous steps did what they were supposed to do. None of the
It has to be insane working at TSMC as an engineer or even as a technician. I would love to work as a technician at TSMC or even an engineer. I mean, I don't know if the kind of engineering I do is what would be valuable there. I guess they are using software, but I would love to do optics. I don't know optics yet. Maybe I should go and do some self-study. I say optics, I'm talking about the math, not the, like, I want to do the math so I can do engineering.
Anywhere near the press coverage of an ASML EUV scanner, but without a fab full of them, even a twin-scan NXE 3800E is just a very expensive laser pointer. And Applied Materials doesn't sit alone in this tier either. Lam Research is another American company that completely dominates plasma etching, the step where patterns drawn by the lithography machine get carved into the actual silicon. KLA, also American, makes most of the world's wafer inspection and process control equipment, essentially the very expensive microscopes and metrology systems that tell the fab whether the chips being produced are actually any good before too many of them get scrapped. And Tokyo Electron, usually just called TEL, is a Japanese company that quietly holds near monopolies on the coater developer track tools that handle every wafer before and after lithography, as well as...
I'm just hearing supply risk supply chain risk after supply chain risk. One company does it. And all of these things that he's covered so far are incredibly complicated and complex. And they seem to be high, like this is high tech type shit where it's you need real knowledge and expertise. This isn't easy stuff. So the barrier to entry is quite high. You need more than just capital. You also need intelligence and know-how, because intelligence isn't enough here. You also need know-how.
On a long list of thermal processing and cleaning steps that nobody outside of fab engineering really thinks about. Between ASML, Applied Materials, Lam Research, KLA, and Tokyo Electron, you have the so-called Big Five of semiconductor equipment, and they collectively account for the overwhelming majority of every dollar spent inside a leading-edge fab, with each one of them being the undisputed world leader in their particular place on the production line, although only one of them ever really gets that much attention. And partially that low profile is by design. Applied Materials.
I would like to see how many of these suppliers for TSMC. I want to see how they're broken down between those 40 countries. It's interesting to me that something that was invented here, the transistor, was invented here. Is his name Robert Noyce? Is that his? I forgot his name. And someone else. Is it Noyce? Yeah. Him and gosh, what's the other guy? More. Maybe I can find the same from Moore's Law. Okay, and then this should give it where okay, wait. It comes from someone. Ah man. Anyway, Robert Noyce is one of the one of the guys behind the transistor. It was invented here in America. And it kind of baffles me that the most advanced version of the thing that was invented here is not made here. Does that make sense? We had to take that expertise. Well, technically, the guy I think behind TSMC, he worked for Texas Instruments for some time, but all of the expertise was taken there, and you know we I don't know, we spawned down the industries here. I'm saying we as if I was involved in it, but I'm saying that to mean America. Our industries were spawned down so that we can offshore it to these other countries, and now we can't produce it ourselves. We cannot produce computer chips here in America. And the fact that we have to import TSMC into America to teach us how to make the thing that we invented is embarrassing. It's almost as embarrassing as living in a country and sharing a national identity with people who can vote like me, with people who can't even read the language that they're supposed to be able to speak, their native language. This is awesome to see, but it's disappointing to me that we don't have that here. And it should disappoint you too, because if you are someone who's actually smart, this is a company that if you wanted to work at this company, you really don't have that opportunity. It's very, it's a high barrier to entry because it's not an American company. They're in Taiwan. So if you as an American person want to get some type of knowledge or experience around these types of chips, well, that's hard for you to do. something interesting. Just a little quick story aside. It's kind of related. When I was somewhere in Thailand. I think I was in Bangkok. Yeah, I must have been in Bangkok. I was in a nice hotel. Yeah, I was in Bangkok, and generally when I'm staying in the hotels, like I talk to the people there, and I generally make friends. And I was talking to I guess he recognized me. Oh wait, no, I'm lying. This is another guy. He was a CEO of another company in Singapore. I need to go back. This is in Korea. I was in Korea, and I was staying in what's that place? Fuck. There's a song about it. That dance. That gosh, what's that song? The Gangnam Gongam. I don't know what the fuck it is. Gangnam style. Where the fuck? Yeah, this shit. I stayed in this neighborhood, and in a hotel in this neighborhood, and some other guy was there. He recognized me because I'm literally the only black person in the hotel. This is a very, very nice hotel. I'm staying at this hotel for 5 days, and I'm moving about, so you're going to see me. Anyway, he's like, I noticed you're here. He's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm just chilling. And we got to talking. We ended up going out to lunch and whatever. And he shared with me what he was doing, what kind of stuff he was into. And he was like, yeah, I'm in chips. He didn't say chips. I'm saying chips because I don't actually know the correct name for the industry. The silicon industry? I don't know. He was into chips. And it struck me because he was the first person I had ever met since I went to California when I was part of that nerd honor society. He was the first person I had ever met and spoken to who worked in that industry. As someone who works in tech and I'm around those types of people, I have never met someone like that. And it got me thinking that those people don't exist in America. If the fact that I'm in Korea and I'm meeting all these folks who seem to be in this industry and seems to be very big, and we don't have it here, that should tell you something. Anyway, that was my little, I don't know what that story was for, but I dislike the fact that we don't have this ability to create these things here, and that we are going to be trained by the people who we trained to build the thing that we invented. Semiconductors. Yes, thank you, Jimmy. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. I see you have another thing here. Let's see. They replace the short-term rewards from cost cutting while sacrificing long-term value. Seems like that's a common in a lot of areas of life these days. Yes, it's greed. I think we're at late-stage capitalism, and we only have two ways that this can go. We're going to either go back into feudalism, which we're kind of already technically there. We have techno-feudalism now, where you are leased everything. More and more, you don't own your own computer. You may think, oh, well, I bought my computer, but I would encourage you to try to use your computer without the internet. See how that goes. You have to pay to use the internet, monthly fee. All of the services you use on the internet are going toward a monthly fee, or if they're not already. You don't own shit. That's a problem. It's a big problem. Because you don't own something, that means that the person who does own it, they can pull the rug from under you. They can do whatever they want. They can control you. You don't have sovereignty. That's basically what that means.
Lamb and KLA are all American, so they're naturally less in the geopolitical news than the more exposed Dutch ASML, and there's a good chance that most regulators have also never heard of them, making it much less likely for them to interfere in their operations. Any country that wanted to be fully independent of the globalized chip supply chain would need to replicate all 5 of these businesses, plus their thousands of individual suppliers.
China can do that. I have a lot of faith in their ability to do that. China is governed by engineers. That's a fun fact if you did not know that. The vast majority of all of the like the CCP members that are part of the the government, that form the government, the vast majority of them are trained in engineering. They're engineers. They are not the it's hard, man. I don't want to be disrespectful, but many of our politicians, yes, they've gone to college, but let's be real. Like, if you have a STEM degree in college, you understand that most degrees are bullshit. And a lot of people have degrees in bullshit.
It would take decades to do if it were even possible at all. A common characteristic is that a lot of these companies had been honing their industrial processes since before modern silicon semiconductors even existed, starting from fundamental...
Wait a minute.
Since before modern silicon semiconductors even existed.
Okay, I haven't sat on that toilet. I know I've sat on 3 different models. There's one at the house. There was one in Korea. The good one. Obviously, they make the other ones too that I don't like, but the good one. They have the regular ones where they're like, it's like a weird seat and it's like an attachment on the toilet. And then they have the other one that's good where it's like the toilet is the thing. It's fucking awesome. Oh, man. That thing makes you want to take a shit. It was so pleasant. Like, you ever... Sitting on a cold toilet seat is the worst. Worst. Yes, it's the worst. You haven't lived until you have sat on a body temperature warm toilet seat, but it's not warm because someone else sat on it. That's nasty. That's something that I've never liked. I hate a hot toilet seat knowing someone else's ass has been on it. I don't want their body heat from their ass going into my ass. That shit's gay. No, I don't want that. But I am perfectly okay with the toilet heating itself to then heat my ass. I like that.
Starting from fundamentals again would involve a lot more than just reverse engineering some machinery. Now, the best of all these machines all eventually flow into just 4 companies: Samsung, GlobalFoundries, Intel, and above all,
Samsung recently hit a record high valuation as well. Not just SK Hynix. And I think SK Hynix and Samsung together, I think they represent like 40%. I might be over exaggerating. But let's just say for now, they probably have 40% of South Korea's GDP. The tables, there are only 5 companies really in South Korea. And Samsung is one of the big ones. LG is a big one, obviously. Hyundai, all them, like the heavy industries. But Samsung and SK Hynix, I think combined now, because of the recent boom, the bubble that we have, I think they now account for 40% of South Korea's GDP. 2 companies. That should scare you. The toilet probably self-sanitized too. So there, yes, but not on the seat. It sprays a mist after you finish. It'll spray a mist in the toilet bowl area, like in the toilet bowl, and that keeps it clean and smells fresh, and it'll close it and all that kind of stuff. Samsung had to pay out big bonuses to employees because they all refused to work. Oh, really? How much?
SMC. With the exception of Intel, these companies do not design any of the chips themselves. They just take the designs sent by their clients and manufacture them on their behalf. Now, this would be a little bit like Ford designing the new Focus and then subcontracting out the entire manufacturing to a completely separate business that also happens to be building the new Toyota Corolla on the same factory floor for a direct competitor. It is a bit unusual, but the technical skill set required to operate this kind of facility is so concentrated and the equipment so eye-wateringly expensive that figuring out how to do that in-house just doesn't...
See, this explains why when I was in Korea and Taiwan and Singapore and even Thailand. Why I've met so many people who worked in the semiconductor industry. It's a lot of them in Taiwan, that's for sure. And I met a few of them. Like every hotel I went to, they were there. They were there.
Sense for any chip designer that needs to ship new technology this decade. This has of course caused further geopolitical concern because TSMC is by far the largest of these four.
Taiwan America accounting for 60% of global foundry revenue, 90% of leading edge manufacturing. That's monopoly, near monopoly. Oh, look at this. TSMC is 20% of the country's GDP. That's 1/5. Oh, every $5, $1 comes from this one company. Now, even though I believe we are in an AI bubble, I don't think the bubble popping is going to really affect TSMC. TSMC act they have a real valuable service, and it makes money. So I don't think that this, they're going to suffer from the bubble, but it's still concerning that Taiwan is basically TSMC and maybe 3 or 4 other companies.
Manufacturers currently responsible for somewhere north of 90% of the world's leading edge chip production. And the T in that name stands for Taiwan, which sits squarely in the crosshairs of the People's Republic of China and could potentially disrupt this very...
I don't like what they did here. They called China by the official name, the People's Republic of China, but they didn't call Taiwan by its official name, which is the Republic of China, RLC.
supply chain if and when a conflict ever broke out. It would be a bit like the Strait of Hormuz, but if 80% of the world's oil flowed through there instead of just 20%. And that oil was made of glass. And we'd built the world's most concentrated pool of investment in history based on that glass. TSMC has, under pressure from the US, tried to mitigate this risk by building new fabs in Arizona and Japan. But the most advanced node is still made almost exclusively in Hsinchu and Tainan, and the company has...
I've been to Tainan. I've been there too. I've been all over that place. Let's go to Tainan. Let's see here. That's not Tainan. Yeah, I think this is Tainan. Yeah, look at that. Tainan. See what we got here. Anything, and obviously the video will be blown out for you, so I'm going to find something that's not video if I can, maybe. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to find any. Oh, I think I saw a jet. Yeah, oh, it's a video. Maybe you can see it. It's a jet. I saw a lot of military while I was on that island, like. And a lot of jets doing jet shit. But yeah, this is Tainan. Hopefully it's not too blown out.
Node is still made almost exclusively in Hsinchu and Tainan, and the company has openly admitted...
Oh, I see, Jimmy. It won't affect TSMC because, yeah, they're already supply limited. You're right. It'll affect them, but it won't hurt them, right? I think since demand is so high right now, insanely high, they've been able to jack up their prices. They've been winning lately.
That its overseas facilities are running a generation or two behind for now, with the Arizona ramp-up in particular having faced repeated delays and cost overruns.
I knew that would happen. As soon as they announced it and they said how much they were going to invest, I'm like, it's going to be more than that because they're doing it here. And, America is not Taiwan. There are a lot of differences between our two countries and cultures, and we have cultures that aren't even American that exist in America now. So they're dealing with a lot of different things. And the fact that they decided to do it in Arizona is confusing to me because they need water. Now I understand that they innovated a lot for these plants, these fabs for the water that they need, but I don't know if they've innovated for a desert. For what it's worth, Taiwan has water shortages. They don't have a lot of fresh water. Just FYI. It's kind of ironic because you're on an island, but obviously you can't really drink that water.
This is not because they don't have access to all the best tools from the Big Five. It's because even with access to these machines, actually producing anything useful with them still requires decades of soft skills that have been notoriously hard to transfer. Now, before even the best of these,
some of the skills that are hard to transfer are due to the culture. Not just their culture, but our culture, and some of the incompatibilities or the incongruencies between them.
Can do anything, they need the raw material itself. Bare 300mm silicon wafers, the round mirror-polished discs that every chip in the world starts its life on, are themselves, well, you wouldn't believe it, made by an extremely concentrated group of suppliers. Two Japanese companies, Shin-Etsu Chemical and Sumco, between them account for somewhere around half the entire global wafer market, with smaller shares held by Global Wafers in Taiwan and Siltronic in Japan.
I would love to own a company where I am one of two, and you need me. God dang.
The process starts with high-purity quartz sand, which gets refined into electronic-grade polysilicon, a material so pure that contamination is measured in parts per billion, which then gets melted and pulled into a single crystal ingot using the Czochralski process, which then gets sliced, lapped, and polished into the actual wafers. Each of these steps is its own art form, and a meaningful disruption at any one of them ripples through every single fab on the planet, which is exactly what happened in 2021 when a fire at one of Shin-Etsu's suppliers contributed to a global semiconductor shortage that ended up sitting half-finished cars on dealership lots for almost 2 years.
So this is why my favorite Porsche GT3 went from 185,000 to 250,000. This is it, huh? Or why my G-Wagon appreciated like insane because people couldn't get them. This is why. So I guess I have them to thank.
Just as important to the system as logic foundries are to the memory manufacturers. TSMC, Global Foundries, and Intel really only focus on logic chips, but computer memory is manufactured using a similar, though not identical, set of machines, and has very clearly become just as important to global business. Without DRAM, and increasingly without the stacks of high bandwidth memory that get packaged directly next to a GPU, even the most advanced logic chip would effectively be useless, because it would simply have nothing to read from or write to fast enough to matter. Samsung is the single company in the world that does both logic and memory, alongside SK Hynix and Micron, which are the world's leading dedicated memory manufacturers and collectively supply more.
Nah, it wasn't. I know you think that, but there were actually shortages for getting cars, like high-end cars. The wait list, fortunately I was already on the wait list, but the wait list for a new G-Wagon went from 18 months to 3 years. That wasn't to do with Trump or Biden doing anything. That was 100% their supply chains. And due to, it's hard to explain unless you understand, unless you really know, but the high-end car market is nothing like the regular car market. The high-end car market, it's typically affluent people, people with money, like for real. They have money, right? They're rich, what you would call rich. They'll go to a dealership and they'll want a car. It's the car, like no one else has the car yet. It's just out, and the car is $250,000, and to you that's a lot of money. Fine, but they want the car, and other rich people want the car. So what's going to happen is, well, this rich person going to say, I'll give you $400,000 for the car. And some other rich person is like, oh, well, I'll give you an extra $100,000 more than whatever the next guy's giving you. And all of a sudden, a car that you think, the the sticker says this. It's like, no, you're not gonna get this car. It was one of those situations. This wasn't to do with money supply, although I'm sure that also affects the price of the car. But I'm talking about vehicles that the price, the manufacturer, like the MSRP wasn't higher, but the price that you paid was higher. Case in point, the people who bought my G-Wagon from me, they bought my G-Wagon for $270,000. I paid $180,000 for it. So some person wanted it so much that they were willing to pay over for it, right? That's what I was dealing with. So because all of these the components are used in these higher end cars, but the higher end cars, they produce smaller, like they don't make as many. So, they can't get the parts like Toyota can. So they produce less cars. And yeah, I drive a Tesla now. So I should tell you, I just said, fuck it.
More or less 100% of the chips going into any business worth mentioning in the space. SK Hynix in particular has become the sole qualified supplier of the most advanced HBM3E memory stacks that Nvidia bolts onto its top-end accelerators, which is a fun position to be in until you realize that the entire AI data center boom is currently sitting on top of a memory chip designed in Incheon and packaged with bonding wire processes that almost nobody outside of South Korea actually knows how to do at volume.
I've been to Incheon. I've been there too. Oh man, all these places.
And the bottleneck doesn't stop at the memory itself. To actually attach those HBM stacks to a GPU die, manufacturers use a process called CoWoS, chip on wafer on substrate. And CoWoS capacity in 2025 was almost entirely owned by a single facility inside TSMC, which means that for a stretch of about 18 months, the global supply of frontier AI accelerators was effectively rate limited by how fast a single packaging line in Taiwan could move. Nvidia could design as many chips as it wanted, and SK Hynix could manufacture as much memory as it wanted. But if TSMC's packaging capacity didn't expand, those parts simply could not be combined into a finished product. Now, as a special mention, if you thought we were done with the bottlenecks, Nvidia, Apple, AMD, Broadcom, and Qualcomm do not manufacture any of their own chips. They only design them. But they also don't design.
And we learned, or at least I learned, that Sony also designs their chips. I thought Sony made their own chips. I haven't been everywhere. I have not been everywhere, but I have been to more places than the majority of people. I've definitely been to more cities than I've been to countries. I will say that. So like, it's more like I'm more likely to say I've been to a city because I've been to a lot of cities at this point. I've been to, I don't know how many cities, hundreds of cities at this point.
What they design with. Just drawing the blueprint for a modern chip requires highly specialized software that can simultaneously model out tens of billions of individual transistors, while also calculating how those transistors will perform at a scale where quantum uncertainty actually starts to matter as a real engineering input rather than a theoretical curiosity. There are again.
Wait a minute, hold on, wait. He can't just put this B-roll. What's here? Verification, reference design, work, FSMN test 1, implementation design, 8 passing point, BB pin, loop, BB net, cut port, DFF, lat, total. Okay. Report equivalence, FSM test, report, match, verify, report. Okay, so whoa. Report equivalence is piping this into a file, so that's a program. Report equivalence is a program. Report equivalence. Or is that the output of that program is going to that file? I don't know. I wonder if this is actually real from whatever the hell they're doing. This is definitely a Linux system. They're using Linux. I can tell by how they name the home directory. Interesting.
Engineering input rather than
okay, is there anything else I can get from here? Oh shit, this is Tickle. I know, bro, this is insane. I don't know him. I met him. He founded a company called FlightAware. Right, like literally, I can walk there. It's right over there. I've talked to him a few times. He's the creator of Tickle, and they're using Tickle. It's like it's kind of C. It's C basically, but they've tacked on some shit. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, I man, this is interesting. The fact that they're using Tickle makes me want to ask, like, go over to the company and ask if he knows any of the folks at TSMC or any semiconductor guys, because I noticed that a lot of these old hat engineers, they're connected. They know everyone. This guy is really smart too. He's really into music like me. Like he has Logic, but he writes I don't know, it's weird. He's on some other shit. I make music the normal way. He makes music by programming. It's interesting.
Theoretical
And
curiosity.
here, let me show you his company.
There are again only 2 companies on Earth that produce.
Just because, like, obviously the fact that I know him and he's from Houston, I want y'all to like use some of our software. If you've ever heard or not heard of FlightAware, like, he's the guy. I'm talking about his product, by the way. So I don't have a flight to do, but you can do the track now, I guess. And yeah, I'll just share this. I can go and check out FlightAware if you want to be able to track flights and do other stuff. It's more than just flight tracking. It's mainly used by pilots. He's a pilot, so in fact, most of the people at the company were pilots. And when I was considering joining, one of the perks that they had was giving, basically, he told me straight up, he's like, Will, I don't expect you to really be here for 40 hours. He's like, you give me a solid 32 hours a week, I'll be happy. And he's like, you just use the rest of the time. If you want, you can go and get your pilot license. I was like, hell yeah. And they'll also help subsidize it. I was like, hell yeah. Go get my pilot's license. I still haven't got my pilot's license. I decided to fuck off and like run away from America for a while.
Software competitively, Cadence and Synopsys. Together, they sit at the very top of a software stack that the entire semiconductor industry uses to verify whether a design will even work before it gets sent off to a fab. Now, as someone who personally likes to complain about paying my Adobe subscription every year for a product that I used to be able to buy just once, these companies take software licensing to a level that I think most people would find genuinely unhinged. An annual subscription to use their tools can cost over $500,000 US per year per seat, which means that a relatively small team of 10 engineers will run one of these companies several $1 million a year just on the software.
That's not abnormal though. That doesn't really mean much. Typically software is value priced. It's not priced in the like consumer price, and it's value priced. What are you getting in return for the software? Well, you're able to go out and make $1 billion in sales from the products that you create. And you need to use the software in order to enable that. I would just go out on a limb and say, if I only have to pay $2 million to get $1 billion back in revenue, I'm gonna pay that. I'm gonna add a tip. I'm gonna give you a 25% tip. I'm gonna pay you more than you want.
Pay it because there really is no replacement. If a chip designer tried to migrate to anything else, they would effectively be rebuilding their entire design pipeline from scratch on tools that haven't even been used in production by anyone they actually trust. And just to make this picture slightly clearer, both Cadence and Synopsys are American companies, which means that the US government can, and has, added their software to its export control list. Now,
do I have software pricing or is it more of a no. I don't. No articles. Pricing is an art. Pricing is pricing. I don't think that it makes sense to distinguish between software or anything else. Pricing is pricing, and yeah, it's hard to figure out. Like, you can have a price that's too high and you're gonna miss out on sales. You'll have a price that's too low and you may get sales. You may also lose some sales if the price is low, but you'll get sales, but they may not be the types of customers that fit your ideal customer profile. There are a lot of things. There are some books on pricing. I can recommend it. I don't know if you're gonna read it. Like, have you read any other? Normally when I recommend shit, people don't read it. So I don't like recommending shit anymore. I don't actually know if the name of the book is Value Pricing, but I know what the cover looks like. And who the guy is. Yeah, here. Hold on, give me a second. Let me search through my text messages. I sent someone a link to the store. There we go. Let me get it here. There you go.
Again, this has been a very narrow look at a very narrow selection of the companies that this whole process relies on. We have barely touched on the photoresist chemistry coming out of JSR and Tokyo Oka, the specialty gases from Air Liquide and Lind, the mask blanks from Hoya, the bonding wire from Tanaka, or the dozen...
Wait, did he say Hoya? Did he say mask blanks?
The mask blanks from Hoya.
I did not know Hoya was involved in the semiconductor industry. Although I guess it makes sense because semiconductor industry is like very tightly aligned with the photography industry and the optics industry and the computing and electronics industries. Hoya, yes, I know Hoya. I have some of their products actually. They make filters, but I just learned they also make masks for semiconductors. Let's see, Hoya filters. Huh? Here. Yeah, see? Remember at the beginning of this video, I'm like, I would love to work for, it would be dope to work at TSMC because it's literally the confluence of all of the things that I enjoy in one company. You can almost say I'm not a chemist person. I'm not really into chemistry, but you could make an argument that cooking and alchemy chemistry is not, they have some similarities. I'm gonna just say that. You can't say that they have nothing in common. They have some things in common. Yeah, I didn't realize that they had more than just consumer products. This is cool to know that they are now in. I might actually invest in them.
Or the dozens of subsystem suppliers buried 2 and 3 levels down inside the bill of materials for a single EUV scanner. It's an industry that has encouraged and required hyper-specialization into techniques sitting at the cutting edge of what's currently scientifically possible. And that means there's a lot of single points of failure scattered along the way, but also a lot of companies that have become very, very good at working together, because there really is nowhere else for any of them to go. Sure, a lot of these companies may be the only supplier in their market.
Zeiss lives rent-free in my mind. There's a lens that I want from Zeiss that I've been wanting for so long. I don't know why I don't buy it. I do know why. I've learned something about myself. Wanting things, it gives me a sense of, I don't know, I just like wanting stuff. The actual getting the thing doesn't really do much for me. But there's a lens that I say I want and I could get. I'm not gonna get it, but it's the Zeiss Otis. Why do I want this lens? I don't even know. It makes no sense. It's a fucking manual focus lens. It's big and heavy. I have a faster lens already. But I don't know. It's an all metal lens. It's got an all metal lens to it. Let me find the latest drop. Here we are. kind of slow. Is it gonna do anything? Okay, I guess it's broken. Yeah. So, man, it's just so sexy, you know? Look at that. You got the yellow and the blue. And you got the blue rear gasket for weather sealing, which I love. I don't know why it doesn't match my camera, but I love it. I love the knurling on the focus ring and the aperture ring. How smooth it is. I haven't had this. I have another Zeiss lens. I love the markings. It's man. Zeiss is probably one of my favorite lens manufacturers.
But the companies they sell to are also the only buyers, so their monopoly power is somewhat offset by the monopsony power on the other side.
Wait, monopsony? Did I just learn a new word today? Monopsony? Monopsony. I have just learned a new word. I have never heard this word before. Monopsony. A market situation in which there is only one buyer. Why haven't I known this word? How come I knew the one where there's only one supplier? How come I didn't know the other one where there's only one buyer? And honestly, I don't even think I could have been able to figure out what this word meant because I don't know what the Sony mean. I know what mono is. I know roots and stems. Now, most words I can figure out just by, I know etymology of words and language in different languages. So I can kind of piece together what a word means just based off of, the spelling, because that'll give you some idea of its etymology or where it was borrowed from, what language it was borrowed from. There are ways to figure out the meaning of a word. But I wouldn't even guess this from the Sony because I don't know what Sony is. Like, what is that stem? Let's see. Sony stem language English. It's going to do Sony. Man, I don't want Sony. I want Sony like that. Okay. Stem suffix maybe suffix. English. All right. Well, Google is useless these days. Do any of you know? Do any of you know what the suffix Sony means? Because it's just gonna keep trying to give me Sony the company, and I don't know why. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe, this won't give it to me either. I thought I had Wikipedia may give it to me. No, it doesn't give it to me. What the hell? What is? I don't like not knowing things. I can't not. I need to know what the hell does Sony mean? That suffix. I've never seen that suffix in my life. Wait, no. Wait, Jenny. No. I've heard Jenny. Mason. No, that's Re. Yeah, I've never heard Sony as a suffix. Words that end in a suffix. Sony. Okay, all right. Well, obviously I didn't know it. I guess oligopsony it would be there's only a few buyers, assuming that monopsony is only one buyer. And I guess a duopsony would be there's only two buyers. That's my assumption. So what the fuck is Sony? What the hell does Sony mean? What the fuck? Oh man. Let me confirm if my intuition. I think oligopsony would be there are a few buyers. It's not a lot, but it's kind of like an oligopoly. So we'll put oops. English. Yep, small number buyer. So duopsony would be 2. But that still doesn't help me understand what the hell Sony means. Words, okay, all right, look at this. All right. Well, Sony ends this. Okay, fine. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe it's just a sound. Like, let's see. Where's the etymology? So this is 1930s Greek. Opsoni. Oh, okay. Sonian. Okay, all right, all right. Here's the suffix. All right, let's figure that out. Sonian. Okay. It still doesn't tell me what it means. Oh, wait. Well, no, that doesn't tell me. It's an adjective. Okay. It's an adjective. What does it mean? Epic, masculine, neuter, data, plural of, no. That's not it. Future active infinitive, no. Okay, I don't, man, this is gonna irk me. English suffixes list. Why can't I move my cursor? What the fuck is going on? What the fuck? Damn, Google is trash these days. Okay, this isn't a full list. I can tell this isn't a full list. All right, so maybe Sony isn't maybe that's not a suffix. Okay, yeah, I guess it's not a suffix. Category English suffixes. I don't see Sony anywhere here. No, it's not here. Okay, so I guess Sony, maybe that's not a suffix. Okay. Okay. That's all right. So I don't know what Sony means, and it's gonna piss me off. So I'm gonna just have to give up. I don't like not knowing things, especially stuff like this, because this is my language. Like, I speak English. That's my native language. I should not be discovering new words from fucking YouTube and not knowing what the fuck it means. What does the suffix Sony? What is that? What is that? Oh, it literally says it, and none of y'all saw it either, so I don't feel bad. So, Sony is by provisions. Okay. So Sony is provisions or by provision. So this is, I guess, a verb. The concept is a verb, I guess. So yeah, okay, sure. So let's go back. And And because this is by provisions, this is one by provision. And because this is, so buyer. Okay. All right. I got it. I now know the word. I won't forget it again. I'm pissed off though. So I'm like, why don't I know this word monopsony? What the fuck? Okay. Well, I hope that was educational for you as well. I'm done for the day, or for yesterday, or today. I don't know. It's 1:00. So if you enjoyed today's live stream, I would appreciate if you tap the little thumbs up. It's not that hard, I promise you. Your computer won't blow up. Nothing will happen to you. Maybe you'll even get some good karma. Who knows? If you aren't subscribed to me yet, you can subscribe if you want. You want to keep up. Feel free to drop stuff in the comment, in the whatever the hell you call that thing. What do you call it? The VOD. Yeah, that thing. Yeah, see. It's been a minute, so forgive me for not knowing things. But I'm out. Y'all have a good night. And thank y'all for joining. Seriously, y'all made it interesting and entertaining, and I hope y'all enjoyed it too. So, peace.